And once again, welcome everyone. And I would like to introduce our speaker and the topic, graded readers for very young learners. This presentation will introduce graded readers on several ways, in several ways in which they can support very young learners. We will then look at different techniques for using graded readers in and out of the classroom, as well as the benefits for each before finishing with some practical activities. Okay. Rob, have you joined us? And let me introduce Rob, your speaker for today. Rob Peacock.
Yes, Anna.
Oh, wonderful! Thank you. Thank you very much for coming on screen. Rob Peacock works at Oxford University Press as an educational services consultant and course coordinator of the Oxford Teachers Academy. He has spent over 15 years in Japan teaching students of all ages, as well as providing teacher support and workshops. So thank you very much. And now over to Rob.
Thank you very much, Anna. And hello, everybody. Thank you all very much for joining us today. My name is Rob, and I work for Oxford University Press in Japan. It's a real pleasure to be able to join people from all over the world today. As Anna mentioned, today's session is going to be on graded readers for very young learners. We're going to look at some of the benefits of this really valuable learning resource for teaching pre-primary students, as well as some practical tips on how to get the most out of them in and outside of the classroom. So I hope there will be some useful information for everybody. As Anna mentioned, I am joining you from Japan today, so it's a little far from where many of you are joining. I hope that my voice is coming through okay, but please do let us know if you're having any trouble hearing me. Okay, so let's look at the schedule for today. Okay, so we're going to have this webinar in 3 sections. First of all, we're going to look at graded readers for very young learners. What are graded readers? How do they help with the learning process? And what are some of the benefits? Okay, I notice some of you have mentioned that the sound is not coming through very well. I'm going to turn my camera off just so that you can hear me a little bit better. So sorry you won't be able to see. Okay, so in the second section, we're going to look at 3 different ways that graded readers can be used for very young learners, both in and outside of the classroom. And then we'll finish up with a quick brainstorming activity to give you all a chance to get a little more hands-on with the material and think about how you could use the readers in your own classes. Before we get started with that, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about myself. I'm from the UK originally, but I moved to Japan in the year 2000, and I've been living here ever since. I was an English teacher in Japan for the first 10 years of living here, and then I joined Oxford University Press in the year 2010. Great. I'm glad to see that the sound is a little better now. As an English teacher, I taught students of all different ages and levels, but for the last 4 years of teaching, I taught almost all pre-primary students. I visited a different kindergarten or a preschool every day and taught lessons with students from 3 to 6 years old in the morning, usually visiting each different homeroom to teach their lessons. So that could have been from 20 to 40, or sometimes even up to 100 students in one class, and then smaller classes in the afternoon. So I'd travel around the different kindergartens with my bag that contained flashcards, puppets, soft toys, CDs, and of course, some graded readers as well. It was a really fun job. I was very tired at the end of every day, but I really enjoyed teaching English to very young learners. And there were many different ways to teach the students as well. So that's where I'd like to start talking today, with graded readers for very young learners. But first, let's think about the different ways in which very young learners learn English. So here's a picture of some very young learners in the classroom. They're studying in a variety of different ways. But in your experience, in your classes, how do young children learn English? Let's warm up the chat box. Please type in some of your own ideas to the question. What are some effective ways of teaching English to young children in your experience? Any answers? Okay, great answer. Thank you very much. Through play, by playing. Yes, young children do learn very well through play, don't they? And puzzles as well. Thank you very much for the answer. Watching cartoons and singing songs. That's a great answer. Oh, the chat is going very fast now. So sorry if I can't respond to everybody. But a lot of people are typing about games and songs, playing, action songs. That's a great answer as well. Okay, and great point there, Natasha. Some students can't read yet, so we should refer to them differently. Maybe picture books would be a different, better way to refer to them. Obviously, students in different parts of the world can't read English yet. The Japanese students that I taught couldn't read English. They have a different reading system in Japan. I understand students in different countries, such as Ukraine, also have a different reading system, so they won't be able to read the text on the pages yet. So we'll talk about that a little later. But other people are talking about imitation and listening, games, singing, drawing, singing and playing. Wow, so many answers. Okay, so again, apologies that I can't respond to everybody, but lots of answers to the question there. Here were some of the ideas that I had. Sometimes we teach children through drilling. We might show students a flashcard and have them repeat after the student with single words and phrases. We can have students then practice the phrases through games and activities, and maybe bring the words and phrases we're teaching to life through fun songs and chants. Role plays are also very useful. We might bring puppets or soft toys to the class and have them bring the language to life through a particular role play with that puppet. Arts and crafts are also very useful. And in addition, we have stories. So I'd just like to pause and do a quick poll. So can we have the poll up on the screen? I'd like to see which of these are popular with you in your classes. So how do you teach English to young children? You should be able to choose more than one answer. So please click on drilling, games, songs and chants, role plays, arts and crafts or stories. Or if you have a different idea, please feel free to type into the chat box. For example, Galina mentioned flashcards. Thank you very much for your answer there. Okay, so I can see some answers coming up. Games is a very popular answer here, along with songs and chants. We've got role plays, arts and craft. Stories is getting 12% of the answer so far. I'll just leave a little time to see if we can get some more answers. Angela, that's a great point. Students learn from the various senses, smelling, tasting, etc. So we can get students to, for example, touch things with different textures in the class. Okay, games and songs coming up. Okay, I think we can publish the results now. So the most common answer there is games, with songs and chants coming up a close second. But stories is only getting 12% of the answers there. Okay, so let me just close the poll. Well, today I would like to focus on learning through stories. So I can see it's not the most popular method with everybody, but I hope you'll be able to see today that it is a very, very effective way of teaching English to very young learners. Now let's think of some of the language that we teach to students in our classes. For example, we might teach students to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We might teach the phrase I can see, and maybe teach a vocabulary group such as animals. So we might teach students I can see a tiger, I can see a bear, etc. And we might teach colours and prepositions of place, for example, on the cup, in the cup, under the cup, etc. And we can practice all of that great language through, as people are writing here, games, acting, total physical response activities, etc. But if we have stories that put all of this into context, then that's another great way to learn. And that's something that graded readers can really help with. So, for example, if we look at this page, we see how we can put all of that language into context. We've got counting at the top here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I can see 4 ducks on the water. So we've got the phrase I can see with the animals and preposition of place. Or how many frogs can you see? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can see 5 green frogs. So with the pictures there, you can see we're putting all of that language into a familiar context and an engaging context for students. Very young children love going to the park with their parents or teachers and looking for things in the pond or on the lake, etc. So this is very familiar to the students and very engaging. Another very useful aspect of using picture books is the visual support. As some of you have mentioned in the chat, students can't read yet, so even though we do have sentences on the page, students can also learn by looking at the pictures. For example, let's make this picture a little bigger. Okay, here we have Max and his baby brother, Ben. Max is feeding Ben, but we can tell that story with the pictures. Can you see what is Max giving Ben? Again, please type into the chat box. What can you see? Thank you very much, Tosca. Stories are a visual and great way to learn. I think they really engage the learners. Okay, thank you very much, Tosca. A banana and some fruit and something to drink. Orange juice as well. Great. Thank you very much. So once we've brainstormed with the picture, we can then read the sentences together. Here is a banana, Ben. Here is some juice. So this mimics the way that native speakers learn their language. First, we practice it orally, and then we're exposed to the written form. In this case, we're practicing orally with the pictures and then learning with the sentences. But it's not just about learning the sentences. We can also expand and talk a little bit more, notice some extra details in the picture. For example, other than the banana, what other fruit can you see? Okay, that's a great point. Thank you, Natasha. Graded seers would be another great way to talk about them. Okay, thank you very much, Sylvita. An orange and an apple. So students love finding those extra details in the picture, and it's another great opportunity to praise your students for finding them. So in addition to the pictures and the sentences, there are extra support activities in the readers. Here students are learning colours in English, so they get a little extra early reading practice with this kind of matching activity. So here are some ways that graded readers can really help students to learn. We get deeper attention of the language because it's putting that language into those familiar and engaging contexts. We can practice communication with the students by talking about the pictures, encouraging students to notice interesting details. We practice vocabulary and grammar by talking about the pictures and by reading the sentences together. And we're getting early reading practice as well. Students are getting exposed to the written form of English. And when students find, for example, interesting details in the pictures, that's great for motivation and positive reinforcement. Students feel really good about themselves by finding those extra details, and it gives you a chance to praise your students, give them a little high five for finding those parts of the pictures. So graded readers, storybooks are a really great way of enhancing the learning experience for very young learners. Now let's go on and, some people may think that rather than graded readers, storybooks written for native children might provide a more authentic reading experience if you want your children to get the same kind of experience that native language learners would get from reading books. However, this can cause problems. If you're using books designed for L1 children, with language learners, they may find that the language on the page is a little too difficult for them, and low frequency as well. You won't be able to link the language that students are learning in the rest of the class with what's in the picture book. There's also a lack of support. For example, the illustrations won't be designed to support the language learners as well as you get in a graded reader. And this will lead to a demotivating learning experience for children. So rather than books designed for native children, we really recommend graded readers for the optimal learning experience. Now let's move on to some practical ways of using graded readers in and outside the classroom. I'm going to introduce 3 ways for learning graded readers with very young learners. The first is whole class reading. This is very popular in kindergartens with English classes and in general education. When I was visiting kindergartens for my job, I'd often see the homeroom teachers do whole class reading with Japanese picture books and the students. It's very effective for language learning as well. In this case, it's led by the teacher. The teacher might have a big book, or they might be able to project an ebook onto a large screen, or have students all open their pictures or use their own picture books. We're all going to enjoy the same story together, and the teacher will be guiding students by asking questions about the illustrations as they go. As well as communication around the pictures, students are also going to repeat the story sentences. I'd like to introduce a process for doing whole class reading today, and to demonstrate that, let's look at an example reader together. So this is called Silly Squirrel. It's from our Dolphin Readers series at the starter level. And I'd like to demonstrate using this story. I hope you won't mind being the student, so please type into the chat box to answer the questions I'm going to ask you about the picture. So let's start by looking at how to introduce the story. Firstly, we can have students look at the cover and simply ask them, brainstorm by asking them, what can you see in the picture? So please type into the chat box, what can you see on the cover of Silly Squirrel? Obviously, you can see a squirrel. So if that's a new word for your students, that's a chance to introduce that word. But what else can you see? Great, thank you very much. You can see a squirrel, a watermelon. Yes, everybody knows the word watermelon somehow. Great, there's a bird, some fruits, a squirrel, trees, a squirrel playing with fruit. Great. His friend is a bird. Great work. There are trees and flowers. Very nice. The squirrel has fur. Yes, I think that's how Sid keeps warm. He's in a forest. Very nice. Or a park. Great. So you can see leaves, a tree stump. Great answer. Thank you very much, Tosca. The squirrel is playing. The forest. The bird is going to steal the fruits, maybe when they're up in the air while Sid is juggling. Great. And we can see a nice blue sky as well. Great question. Thank you very much, Lali. The squirrel is brown and white and pink squirrel. Okay. Great. Thank you very much for all of your answers. So we can introduce Sid the squirrel today. It doesn't say on the cover, but his name is Sid. Why do you think Sid is a silly squirrel, though? We're going to read Sid's story, and he does something very, very silly. But would you like to guess before we read, why is Sid a silly squirrel? Any ideas? What do you think Sid will do that's silly? He's dancing and playing with the fruits. Thank you very much, Tosca. That can be a silly thing to do. What if he drops the fruit? Yulia, you think that he makes a mistake? I think he will. But what will that mistake be? Maybe he can't count. That's why his mistake. He's fooling around. Thank you, Galina. Maybe he'll lose his fruit, or his fruit won't be fresh at the end of the winter. Okay, let's read the book and find out. So turning to the first page, we can see Sid here, and we can have all of the students say together, "Hello, Sid." Okay. And then read the first sentence together. Sid is a squirrel. And the students repeat. But to set the scene and to predict the next part, let's ask some questions. So where does Sid live? Does Sid live in a house? Does he live in an apartment? He lives on the tree. Thank you very much. In a hollow in the tree. Thank you very much, Tosca. That's right. Okay, in a tree hollow. So it looks very cozy, doesn't he? Sid has a very nice house. How many leaves can you see? Okay, let's count these leaves together. And I'll just start drawing so that we can count them together. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and you're all much faster than me. A lot of you have typed already. 8. Okay, so we can see 8 leaves in the tree. But what colours are the leaves? This is a very important question. I can see some green leaves, but are they all green? Thank you, Tosca. The bird might be a little bit angry. Okay. Orange leaves as well, and green. Yulia, thank you. Yellow, green, and gold. Excellent. So that leads us to an important question. What time of year is it? At what time of year do we see yellow, green, brown, gold leaves? Does that mean it's spring, or summer, or winter? Okay, yes, everybody's typing in it's autumn or it's fall. Okay. Great, so we can tell by the colour of the leaves it's fall. Okay, so now look, it's changed a little. There are only 2 leaves left now. So what time of year is it now? It's got a little later. Now what time of year is it? That's right, it's winter. And Tosca has already answered this question. But how does Sid feel? He's rubbing his tummy. So late autumn, winter now. How do you think he feels? Winter is coming? Great, maybe it's November. Great answer, Natalia. He's cold, perhaps. Great answer. frustrated, perhaps, and he's rubbing his tummy. So yes, thank you very much, Becca, you got the answer. He's hungry. Okay, so we've elicited the sentences. Winter is here. Sid is hungry. Okay. So before we go to the next page, we can ask another question. Where can Sid go to find food? Is there food in the tree? I can't see any food. No fruit. So where can he find food? Is there food under the bird? Aliona, thank you very much. In the forest. Great answer. Okay. So let's check the prediction. That's right. Great work. So Sid has gone to the forest, and you can see he is looking for something. What is Sid looking for? He's looking for something in the forest. Again, we're just trying to elicit the story's sentence here. He's looking for food. Great answer. Thanks, everybody. So Sid looks for food. But now we have a chance to help Sid. Can you see any food? Let's look at the picture again. What food can you see? Oh, Ioana, very, very quick. Banana, apple, orange, egg, and lemon. You noticed them very quickly. Fruit. Thank you very much, Neo. There's an egg as well. Well noticed, Irina. Egg, fruits. It's great. I can see a banana, apple, orange. Great. So again, this will be very, very fun for the kids in the class. They can find this in the picture and point to them. In a real class, we could have students stand up and actually point to the book if we're using a big book. Okay. So now Sid is very happy because with your help, he has some food. But again, let's elicit the sentence. What does Sid have? An apple and a lemon. Great work, everybody. That's right. So then we read the sentence together. Sid has an apple. He has a lemon too. But what will Sid find next? So he's going to put the apple and the lemon in the tree. What will he find next? Elma, an orange. Great answer. Great, we can see the orange behind the tree. But he finds one more thing. What do you think it will be? Lydia thinks it's a nut. An orange, a banana, perhaps? A lemon and an apple? Oh, I think that was still an answer from the last page. A bird? Okay, well, the bird is helping him find the food. Let's have a look and check our answer. Sid finds a banana. He finds an orange too. Okay, so if you chose banana, congratulations. Now, in a real class, we would continue in the same way, asking questions before we read the sentences, then asking more questions to predict what's going to happen on the next page. But just for the sake of time, let's move forward to the end of the story. So Sid is putting the food in his tree. He finds an egg. He finds a sandwich too. And as we all know, squirrels sleep during the winter, so they need to have a lot of food with them. But this is why Sid is a silly squirrel. Are you ready? Oh no, Sid. Now it's snowing. It's very cold. That's a good point, Leslie. There are no cucumbers or carrots. That's a shame. It's cold. Sid wants to go inside his tree to sleep. You can see he has his sleeping hat on, but he puts so much food inside the tree, there's no space for him to sleep. That's right, he has no space to go in. So Sid is a silly squirrel. Okay, so let's finish up with a couple of final questions. What will Sid do? As Olivera mentioned, there's no space for him inside the tree. What will he do? Any ideas? Elmo, great idea. Maybe share the food with his friend the bird. Maybe eat some of the food. Share with the other squirrels. Eat his food or eat half of it. Thank you, Juliana. That's a great answer. Great. Give some food to the bird. Okay, great answers. And then Sid will have some space to sleep. And another final question for the students. What's your favorite food? So we saw a lot of fruit in today's story, as well as eggs and sandwiches. They're healthy things that Sid likes. How about you? What's your favorite food? Tosca, do you like pizza? Aliona likes vegetables. How about the rest of you? Fruits, great answer. A lot of you like fruit. Do you like any local foods that you could tell us about? Oh, Alexandra, you like sushi, great answer. You'd be very happy in Japan. Lasagna, apples. How about where you live? For example, if you're in Ukraine, is there any particular food, local food that you like there? I'm in Japan. I like a food called natto, which is a kind of fermented bean curd. Not many foreigners like it. Okay, great. So we're getting some local answers from Georgia. Zinkali, is that how you pronounce it? Lovely Georgian food. Borscht, that's a great answer. Watermelon, excellent. From Macedonia, Pastramagia. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Okay. In Kosovo, Flija, great answer. Okay. Cottage cheese as well. I like cottage cheese too. So thank you all very much for your answers there. Okay, I hope you all enjoyed Silly Squirrel. We did that as a whole class reading, and I used a particular process for this. I've put the process on the screen here, but I've put the process in the wrong order. Would you like to just take a moment to read these and put the stages in the correct order? So we've got A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Each of these is a different stage of the whole class reading process. What do you think should be the correct order should be? So you might think, for example, D, F, G, E, A, B, C, or C, B, E, G, F, D, A, for example. When you have an idea, please type into the chat box these stages in the correct order. Again, you don't have to type the sentences, just for example, D, B, F, G, E, A, C. Whatever you think is the correct order of these stages. Okay, so Victoria, you think B is the first one? Show the cover. Okay. And Juliana got as far as B, A, F. Okay. B and G. Okay, so we start with B and then go to G. Oops. Okay, here's a full answer. B, F, C, D, G, A. So that would be show the cover. Or Anna thinks B, F, G, E, A, C, D. Great answers. B, F, C, A, D, G, E. Or B, F, G, C, D, A, E. Okay, so we're getting some slightly different answers. Okay, I think it really depends on how you would like to approach the class, but this is the order in which I was doing it. So with whole class reading, we would start by showing the cover and allow students to name the things that they see, perhaps read the title together. We'll then turn to the first page and ask questions about the pictures in order to elicit the story. So for example, on the page where we had Sid has an apple, he has a lemon too. First we would ask, what does Sid have? just to elicit those particular sentences. Then we'd read the sentences on the page together. Typically, the students repeat after the teacher. Perhaps the teacher will point to the words while reading, so students can see each individual word. Again, we don't expect the students can read full sentences together at this stage. They're just getting exposure to the written form of English. Then we might ask some prediction questions. C, ask students what they think will happen on the next page. It could just be what will happen next, or a more targeted question. And then turn to the next page and check if the students' predictions are correct. We'll then repeat that process until the entire book is finished and ask some follow-up questions about the story. For example, what will Sid do, or what's your favorite foods, that kind of thing. So that process, we can really get the most out of picture books in a whole class reading session. Here are the benefits. This makes things communicative and interactive. Students have lots of chances to put their hands up and mention things that they've seen in the pictures. We're getting to practice vocabulary and some simple structures by talking about the pictures and by reading the sentences. Stories are also useful for students' emotional well-being. For example, we were looking at Sid's emotional journey throughout the story. He was hungry at the beginning, and then happy because he found the food, and then maybe confused because he had nowhere to sleep at the end. So students will maybe feel the same emotions as Sid throughout the story. They will have chances to empathize with Sid as they're reading, and they also have a chance to help Sid. This is also fostering a love of reading with the students as they enjoy the whole class reading, hopefully motivating them to read more away from class. One option for that is individual reading. If you have a chance to do some extra reading with your students away from the other students in the class, for example, if there's a student who's waiting for her parents to come and pick them up, you can do some individual reading with your students. In this case, the learners get to choose their story from a selection. Perhaps you have a collection of print books in your school library. Or if you're using ebooks, you can have students choose a book to read on a tablet or a smartphone. The student will then read together with the teacher. And as you are doing with the whole class reading, look at the pictures to help them understand the story. But in this case, it can be a lot more personal. The child can find things in the picture that they would like to point out to the teacher. We can then read the text together. Again, the teacher is helping the students to read the English text, and the student can decide how many times she or he would like to read the story. Perhaps they'd like to read 3 or 4 times. By doing that, we're having a more tailored reading experience for the student. It develops learner agency because the student is able to choose which story she would like to read and how many times she would like to read the story. So she's getting to make choices about her own learning. We can read at a pace which is comfortable for the child. Some children want to go to the next page very quickly. Some children spend a little more time talking about the pictures. We're developing an early awareness of the written form of the language, helping students develop their reading. And we get plenty of repetition. Young children like to have plenty of chances to read the same story many times. So that can be that's a second way of using graded readers. That's a more tailored individual experience for the learner. A third way, which is similar, is for reading at home. If students really enjoyed a book in class or reading with the teacher, perhaps if they're allowed to, they could take a printed book home, Or again, if they're accessing ebooks online, they can read them at home with their parent or a carer. Again, it's similar to reading with the teacher in that you can look at the pictures together to understand the story and read the text together. But if the parent isn't so comfortable reading the English with their child, there are audio versions available, so they can play the audio and have the child listen and repeat after the audio. And again, the child can decide how many times they would like to read the story with their parent or carer. This has several extra benefits. It's linking learning to home life, which can be more motivating for the students. And you can use this to develop a reading habit. So it could be at a regular time of day, perhaps 30 minutes after eating dinner, or just before the child goes to bed. That helps to make reading a habit and even further develop the love of reading with the child. Okay, so those were some different ways of using graded readers in and outside class. I'd like to spend a little time at the end now brainstorming some questions you might like to ask your students about a particular reader, just to give you a chance to get a little more hands-on and prepare to use readers with your students. So we're going to look at a story as an example from a series called Oxford Read and Imagine. These stories feature these characters. We have Rosie and her brother Ben. You can see from the picture that Rosie loves animals. She has a picture of a bear on her sweater, whereas Ben loves science a little more. He has a picture of Saturn on his t-shirt, so he loves astrology. Ben and Rosie's grandpa is a scientist. He is an inventor, and he has created, the robot that you can see on the right-hand side of the screen there. His name is Clunk. He was built by Grandpa, and in all of the Read and Imagine stories, they have an adventure with Clunk. So let's start by looking at the cover of this story. The story is called I'm Sorry, and you can see the beginning of the scene on the cover there. So I'd like to think together about how you might introduce this story to your students. What questions might you ask them to encourage them to brainstorm, just using easy English that they already know? Perhaps introduce the theme of the story, encourage them to make predictions about what will happen, and engage learners and motivate them to read. So over to you. Please type into the chat box questions you might ask about the cover. What might you like to ask your students? Again, it could be simply to encourage them. Oh, Tosca, great, straight away. So what do you see in the picture? Very simple but effective question. And Ioana, thank you very much. Who are in the pictures? Great, we can name the characters. Grandpa, Rosie, and Ben, etc. And Clunk. Great. What is it? Great, we could point to the bicycle, for example. What is it? Or point to the tree. Great. What can you see? What can you see in the picture? Okay, who is riding the bike? Great picture. It's Clunk. And does the robot look happy or sad or scared? Thank you very much, Tosca. Yes, I think the robot looks a little scared. Okay, so thank you very much for your ideas. Here are some that I thought of. So similar to you, what can you see? What is Clunk doing? He's riding a bicycle. Why? Where does he want to go? Does he want to go shopping? Does he want to go to the cinema? As one of you mentioned, how does he feel? Great. So again, he looks scared, or maybe he's sorry because he crashed the bike. And an important question for this story is, what can Clunk do? What can't he do? Okay. So as you can see, he can't ride a bicycle. But what do you think he can do? Can he kick a football? Can he climb a tree? Okay. And thank you to all of these extra questions that are coming in. Again, I'm sorry I can't answer every one of them. But let's move on to the first page and think of some questions we might want to ask about this. So as you can see, here's the beginning of the story. Let's go to the park, says Grandpa. We can ride the bikes, says Ben. Clunk, you can ride this bike, says Rosie. Okay. So just focusing on the picture and not thinking too much about the text. Again, what questions could you ask about this illustration? Encouraging students to use familiar language. Again, elicit the story. Encourage students to notice extra details or make predictions about what will happen next. So Tosca, thank you very much. Do you have a bike? What color is your bike? Where do you like to ride your bike? Excellent questions. Thank you very much. How many bikes are there? Great, so we can practice counting. So 2 of you are asking how many bikes can you see? I can see 1, 2, 3, 4 bikes. 1 bike for everybody. Great prediction question. Thank you very much. What will happen in the park? Joanna, thank you very much. Can you ride a bike? So very young learners. Some of them maybe can, some of them can't yet. Is your bike big or small? Great. Can you ride a bike? Very nice. When I was the age of your students, I had a very small rabbit-shaped bike. It wasn't a real bike. Okay, great. Thank you all very much for those questions. Here are some that I thought of. So similar to you, what color is Grandpa's bike, for example? Where are they going? What does Ben have? Can you see Ben is holding a frisbee? And a prediction question, can Clunk ride a bike? We find out on the next page, the answer is no, he crashes the bike. Okay, so again, thank you all very much for those excellent questions. Now, I'd just like to take you through the story so we can get to the end and look at some post-reading questions. So just very quickly, after Clunk crashes the bike, they go to the park. They try to play catch with the frisbee, but Clunk can't catch a frisbee. He falls backwards into the flowers, and again, he is sorry. Then Rosie tries to play football or soccer with Clunk, and he can kick a ball. If you can see here, a little boot comes out of the bottom of Clunk so he can kick a ball. So he's very happy, but he can't kick the ball very well. It flies towards Ben and the cat that he's petting. The cat is scared. The cat runs up the tree. Clunk is sorry again. But Clunk can save the day by flying to the top of the tree and saving the cat. So now Clunk is happy because he's the hero at the end. So sorry, that was just a brief overview of the story. But I just wanted to ask you, what questions could you ask for post-reading discussion? Again, think about personalization of the themes. Some of you already asked some great personalization questions, or perhaps to discuss the values. Did we learn any values through that story? Over to you. What questions would you like to ask? Again, think about some of the themes. Okay, great. Thank you very much, Tosca. So what can Clunk do? What can you do? What can't Clunk do? And what can't you do? Great. And Joanna, thank you very much. What can or can't you do? Great. So thinking about abilities, I think what we're learning there is that we're all good at different things. We can do some things, we can't do other things. Great. Do you like the story? That's a great question. Why is Clunk sorry? Great. And why is he sad or happy at the end? How does he feel at the end of the story? Great question. Is it safe to ride a bike without a helmet? Great point. Clunk should have worn a helmet. Okay. Is Clunk polite? Great question. Rich, I think he is because he said sorry. Okay. And when you make a mistake, great, what do you say? Okay, so thank you very much for your questions. Great, helping animals. That was another great theme that we can talk about there. Again, here were some questions that occurred to me reading this story. like many of you mentioned, what can you do and what can't you do? Is Clunk a good robot? I think so, because when he makes a mistake, he says sorry. We could talk about the sports. Do you like football or soccer? Do you like frisbee? What other sports do you like? And what games do you like to play in the park? And great idea there. What will Clunk sound like? We can imitate him and do a role play. I think that's a fantastic idea. Thank you very much. Okay, so thank you very much for taking part in that. I think it's a really great chance to brainstorm interesting questions we can ask our students and get ideas from other educators. So thank you all very much for sharing. So let's just look at some conclusions. What have we talked about today? We saw at the beginning that graded readers can support very young learners in many ways by bringing the language to life, motivating them, etc. We looked at 3 methods of using graded readers. There was whole class reading, individual reading, and reading at home. Each has many benefits. And the pre, during, and post-reading activities that we just did, the questions that we ask, can help to support and motivate learners. So as you can see, picture books, graded readers are a great way to enhance the learning experience for your students and motivate them to learn more. So just finally, I'd like to tell you about some of the focus papers that we have available. Some of the material from today's workshop came from graded readers for very young learners. You can download this for free from the Oxford Teachers Club, and you can see a link to download the paper up on the screen. Okay, so that's everything from me. Thank you all very much. I'd just like to go to the Q&A session now. So I'll just have a look at the Q&A tab and see if we have any questions that I can answer. Okay. So Lydia, thank you very much for the question here. You're asking whether the children already know seasons, colours, feeling, time, and so on. Yes, I would expect the children, thank you very much for putting the question on the screen. I would expect the children to already know this language when we're doing these stories. So for example, I asked you during Silly Squirrel, what time of year is it? I hope the students already know autumn. But if they don't, we can use yes/no questions to help elicit a little bit more. So for example, is it spring? Is it summer? Is it autumn? Is it winter? That could be a little easier to answer than what season is it, etc. But yes, we're recycling familiar language as we discuss the questions. Okay, Amelia, thank you very much for the question. How to read stories to children aged 3 to 4 years without them all having a picture book and a group of 15 students. Okay, so for some reader series, we have what's called a big book, so you can hold it up in front of the students to see. Or if you have ebooks and a large screen in the class, you can show the book on a screen. Another option that I've seen is some teachers have a device which kind of, you can put it's like a projector. You can put the book underneath a kind of a camera, which then projects the book up onto a large screen so that everybody can see. But of course, that's very important. We want all of the students to be able to see the pictures. Okay. Natalia, you asked, should I translate the questions for kids who can't understand? That can be a useful thing to do. Translanguaging is a useful way to make sure that all students keep up with the story. I would recommend using familiar questions. So we use the same kinds of questions for every page. If you do that, then the first few times, it's useful to ask the question in both languages. As students get used to the question, you can take away the L1 support, the first language support, and just ask in English. But I think a little L1 support can be useful to include all learners. Okay, Alexandra, thank you very much for your question. Is it suitable for primary school? aged 8 to 9 students. What if they're not enthusiastic about reading, singing, whatever in English? Okay, yes, that's a great point. So we're talking about pre-primary today. So we were looking at books with cute squirrels and robots. But of course, we do have readers that are more suitable for slightly older students. Of course, they're not interested in singing at this age, but perhaps a non-fiction reader would be useful for them. They can learn a little bit about science, planets, etc., whatever fits their interests, and we can keep them engaged that way. And Anna, you asked almost the opposite question there, how to read stories to children aged 3 years. So do we need stories for small children? Yes, that's a very good point. So I was pitching my stories today for maybe 4, 5 or 6-year-olds students. Some of the other stories are more suitable for the 3-year-olds. The pictures are bigger. It's more obvious. The characters are very cute. Perhaps we don't have whole sentences in the pictures. And in that way, even very, very young learners can stay engaged. Okay, and finally, Victoria, thank you very much for your question. What teaching features do you notice when children are not native English speakers? Yes, so that's a very different learning experience. So again, a lot of the things that we were doing today was really designed for non-native English speakers. For example, using very, very simple language, colours and numbers, etc., to build students' confidence by using that familiar language. And also listing the sentences, so students will be able to read the sentences at the bottom. That's really important support for non-native teachers. Okay, and then finally, I'd just like to answer Olga's question. Is it important to write down new words for vocabulary for young learners, 6 to 9-year-olds? Yes, that is very important. Thank you very much. In fact, a lot of the graded readers have a picture dictionary at the back. So you can keep track of the vocabulary that they're learning. It's also great to make classroom posters with new words for learners as well. Okay, so thank you all very much for your questions and for taking part in the webinar today. It's been a pleasure working with all of you. Just before we finish, I would like to hand over to our European Professional Development Manager, Charlotte, who I believe is on the call, who has a very special account.
Charlotte.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Rob. That was such an incredible session. I really enjoyed it. I could see the teachers were really engaged.
That was amazing, wasn't it?
It was amazing. And this is the last session of the series that we ran. And it's been really heartwarming to see so many teachers attending. So, yeah, I just wanted to come online and, as we wrap up the last webinar today, I wanted us all to just take a moment to honour someone whose contribution to education reaches far beyond these webinars and far beyond your classrooms. And that is Anna Morris, who is here. So Anna has played a pivotal role in supporting and advancing English language education across not just Ukraine, but also Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, Albania, North Macedonia, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, Moldova, and more countries for 30 years. So a massive round of applause, please. Her work has consistently focused on improving the quality of teaching, empowering us as educators and teachers, and ensuring that our learners and our students receive the very best. And Anna has been admired by teachers and colleagues alike for her professionalism, her determination, her dedication, and both her warmth and her vision. And she's been such a driving force behind everything that we do here at AUP. both in professional development and beyond. So we really want to celebrate Anna as a true legend of Ukrainian education. And Anna, your legacy will continue to inspire educators. So thank you, Anna. Round of applause.
Thank you. Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure being part of the whole thing, and also had such an amazing team with all of you that it was such a pleasure. It was a joy. It was honor. And I loved every moment of it. And I hope everyone has benefited from what we are doing together. So thank you very much again. And I hope it's not the last time.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you. And thank you everyone who's here on the call, who's been with us for the last few webinars. Our previous presenters, we've got Charlotte and Isu here. And thank you again, Rob. But yeah, big thank you to Yulia, who's also been a big support in running these webinars. And yeah, Anna, thank you once again. Thank you.
Thank you. Lots of love from me. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much.